yeah, I got kicked out of show business. Yeah, because I'm mean. No mean people in show business.
DeGeneres finds herself at the center of a storm of controversy.
Being accused of going too far, too gay.
I always end each show by saying, be kind to one another.
So, it had been about a year and a half since Ellen dropped what she called her final stand-up special, For Your Approval. That special was clearly meant to be her big response to the backlash, the critics, and all the people who turned on her after the stories about her behavior started spreading. For a long time, Ellen had built this polished image as one of the nicest people in entertainment. Then that image took a serious hit when more and more claims came out saying she treated staff and non-famous people badly behind the scenes. That was the real shock for a lot of viewers, because the public version of Ellen and the alleged private version felt like two completely different people. What made the whole thing even wilder was the way she tried to frame herself in that special. Instead of really sitting in the damage done to her reputation, she came off like someone trying to rewrite the story in her favor. At moments, it almost felt like she wanted people to believe she was pushed out mainly because of who she was, instead of because fans felt misled by the brand she sold for years. And that is where a lot of the anger came from. This was not just about a celebrity being rude once or twice. People felt like they had bought into a whole identity, a whole public message, and then found out the reality behind it may have looked very different. That disconnect was impossible to ignore.
Toxic, phony, hypocrite, liar. That's what she is. This environment, this toxic culture that she created in the office has been going on for 16 years.
2018, Dana DiMatteo flew from Chicago to Los Angeles and was delighted to be picked out of the audience to have some fun with Ellen. But then she says she was shocked when she was briefed on the comedy bit by the producers.
They tell you, you can't be smarter, funnier than Ellen. She's the comedian and the star, not you.
Her whole brand was built around warmth, kindness, and everyday decency. She ended her show with, "Be kind to one another," so often that it became tied directly to her name. So when reports started piling up, accusing her of being harsh, dismissive, and difficult both at work and in public, the fall felt huge. It was not just gossip anymore. It felt like the mask had slipped, and a lot of people were not willing to shrug that off. In many ways, Ellen became one of the clearest early examples of a major celebrity getting seriously rejected by the audience after a reputation collapse. Once the nice lady of daytime TV image cracked, the damage moved fast. Ratings dropped hard, the shine wore off, and even Ellen's Game of Games got canceled around that same period in 2022.
She emailed the owner of the restaurant and complained about your chip nail polish.
What?
And I was like,
you feel like you were being canceled?
I mean, I really didn't understand it. I still don't understand it. It was too orchestrated. It was too coordinated. And, people get picked on, but for 4 months straight for me, and then for me to read in the press about a toxic work environment when all I've ever heard from every guest that comes on the show is what a happy atmosphere this is and what a happy place it is.
The vibe completely changed. The same viewers who once treated her like America's feel-good daytime favorite suddenly were not checking for her anymore. That is what made the whole downfall feel so dramatic. During the 2000s and 10s, Ellen was seen as one of the safest names in entertainment, collecting awards, making massive money, dancing through daytime TV, and looking almost untouchable. Then all of that started unraveling, and the contrast was brutal. But then, little by little, people started speaking up. And once that happened, the whole thing began to crack wide open. The image Ellen had spent years building did not fall apart all at once. It happened in layers. One person spoke, then another, then more stories started stacking up, and suddenly the version of Ellen the public had been sold for years did not look so solid anymore. What made it hit even harder was that this was not just about one celebrity having a bad week. It started feeding into a much bigger conversation about the entertainment industry itself, and how often powerful people are protected until the pressure gets too loud to ignore. That is a big reason the backlash landed the way it did. By that point, the public was already looking at famous people, media power players, and elite circles with way more suspicion than before. A lot of major names were being discussed in a much harsher light, and people were no longer so quick to accept polished public images at face value. There was this growing feeling that the machine behind celebrity culture had been hiding too much for too long. So when Ellen tried to step back into the spotlight and reshape the narrative around herself, the timing made it even messier. People were already in no mood to hear another rich and powerful star explain why they were actually the real victim in the story. And that is what made her final special so hard for many viewers to sit through. Instead of feeling honest or self-aware, it felt like she was trying to dodge the real reason people turned on her. She leaned into the idea that she was being pushed out unfairly, and for a lot of people, that came off slick in the worst way. Rather than dealing with the gap between her be kind image and the claims about how she treated people behind the scenes, she seemed more focused on protecting her ego and grabbing sympathy. That rubbed a lot of viewers the wrong way because the tone felt entitled, smug, and weirdly detached from why the backlash happened in the first place. It also did not help that her name had long been tied, publicly, to other major celebrities who later faced serious public scrutiny of their own. One of those friendships got a lot of attention because people started looking back at old clips, old interviews, and old moments with completely different eyes. That does not prove guilt by association, and it is important to be fair about that. Still, in the middle of all that wider fallout, the connection added another uncomfortable layer to Ellen's image problem. At that point, everything around her seemed to feed the same larger question people kept asking: how many of these carefully managed Hollywood relationships were hiding something darker behind the smile?
Those of you keeping score, this is the second time I've been kicked out of show business. Can't be gay and be in show business. Mean, old, and gay, the triple crown. I have OCD and ADD. I'm honest, I'm generous, I'm sensitive and thoughtful, but I'm tough and I'm impatient and I'm demanding, I'm direct. I'm a strong woman.
Essence of the special really was totally a lie.
Tell me about your birthday party. Am I invited?
Yes.
Why don't you have one here on the West Coast? Because I work all the time.
Okay, well, maybe I have one at your house.
Where's that?
And then, we have the top 2 floors of the hotel.
And then it will carry on there.
Yeah. Did it? No, I mean the after party.
No, I know about them.
The part that really kept people talking was the idea that Diddy's alleged behavior was not some brand new secret that appeared out of nowhere. For years, there had been whispers, rumors, and side talk about what was supposedly happening behind the scenes in certain entertainment circles. That is why a lot of people started giving Ellen a serious side-eye once his legal problems and allegations exploded into public view. In the minds of critics, someone as connected, powerful, and deeply plugged into Hollywood as Ellen would not have been totally unaware that something questionable might have been floating around in the background. That does not mean there is proof she knew specific details, and it is important not to act like assumption equals fact. Still, the closeness of that friendship made people ask hard questions. What made it look even worse to critics was how often he appeared around her brand. Over the years, he was not treated like some random celebrity who stopped by once or twice. He was featured repeatedly, welcomed warmly, and presented like one of the show's most beloved guests. Ellen even spoke about him in glowing terms, which only made those old clips age in a very awkward way once the accusations against him became much more public and much more serious.
You gonna be early for my party?
Yes, I am. No.
No.
I have to arrive fashionably late.
All right, not too late though.
Not too late?
Not too late,
What
please.
time would you like me there?
I'll tell you later.
Okay,
But not
okay.
too late. Because, once you get there, the party really starts.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Ellen, were you surprised by the allegations about P. Diddy? Did that surprise you about P. Diddy? He's been on your show many times.
Have a good night.
Have you been to his parties?
When people look back at that now, they are not just seeing a talk show moment anymore. They are seeing a connection that feels uncomfortable in hindsight, especially because the tone was always so familiar and so affectionate. Then came another detail that only added more fuel to the speculation. When questions started swirling about her connection to him, Ellen did not really come out swinging with a strong public explanation. To many observers, that silence stood out. Fair or not, silence from a public figure in moments like that often gets read as suspicious, especially when the person has spent years controlling their image so carefully. People started reading between the lines, building their own theories, and treating every move like part of a bigger escape plan. That is why her move to England in late 2024 got so much attention. Around the same stretch of time that Diddy's legal crisis was getting more intense and federal raids had already shocked the public, Ellen and her wife relocated to southwest England. A lot of online commentators instantly framed that move as strategic, like she was trying to create distance from the chaos and get out of the blast zone before things got even uglier. Ellen, on the other hand, gave a very different public reason and said politics played a major role in her decision to leave the United States. After that, reports about major property purchases overseas only made the whole thing feel even more dramatic. Instead of looking like a quiet lifestyle change, the move ended up looking to critics like another chapter in a very messy public unraveling.
Get his way, he was violent, and he subjected victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse so that they would participate in the freak-off.
Beautiful woman up there. That's your mother, isn't it, huh?
Yeah, look at her.
Hello.
Yeah, she's available if you're interested. I'd like to offer her.
People in America and Republicans who would quite like to undo the right for gay people to get married. I mean, that's back on the table as a debate, I think,
absolutely.
isn't it?
The Baptist Church in America is trying to reverse gay marriage. They're trying to, at the very least, stop it from happening in the future and possibly reverse it. And Portia and I are already looking into it, and if they do that, we're going to get married here.
During a private event at the Everyman Theatre in England, Ellen spoke openly about the move and how quickly everything unfolded. She explained that she and her wife had arrived in the country just before the election and woke up the next morning to a flood of emotional messages from friends. According to her, many of those texts were filled with crying emojis and panic about the political situation back home. She told the audience, "We got here to England the day before the election, and we woke up to lots of texts from our friends and crying emojis. We were like, we're staying here, we're not going back. We are not leaving." What started as a temporary getaway quickly turned into something bigger. At first, they purchased a home they thought would only be a part-time place, but soon after that, they decided they wanted a different property and ended up shifting plans again. The twist came not long after. Despite the dramatic tone surrounding the move and the expensive property purchases, reports later suggested that the couple returned to the United States after roughly a year. That sudden turnaround raised eyebrows online. Critics started questioning whether the relocation had really been about long-term political concerns or if it had been more of a symbolic gesture during a tense moment. The timing made people even more suspicious because of everything else happening around Ellen's public image and the wider controversies swirling through the entertainment world during that same period. Ellen had explained during that same theater appearance that politics played a major role in her decision. She argued that she was worried about the direction of the country and expressed concern that protections for same-sex marriage could become uncertain again under federal law. Many people agreed that those fears were understandable and worth discussing seriously. At the same time, critics pointed out something they viewed as contradictory. Ellen had previously been publicly friendly with former President George Bush, who during his presidency held positions opposing same-sex marriage. For some observers, that contrast made her political stance feel complicated and raised questions about how consistent her activism had really been over the years. Another point people debated was her praise of life in England.
It's none of my business what somebody's. Now, when somebody makes it my business, like on gay marriage, I'm going to stand up and say I don't support gay marriage. In my state of Texas, if we tried to have gay marriage, I would campaign against it.
You can do it, baby.
We're going in a circle. Much admiration for rowers.
During the event, she described the atmosphere there as calmer and the people as noticeably kinder, saying everyday life felt simpler compared with the intense spotlight in the United States. But when news spread that she had reportedly moved back after only a year, the internet quickly reacted. Commentators argued that the quick return made the earlier statements sound dramatic in hindsight. Some critics framed the whole situation as an example of celebrity activism that feels easier to perform when someone has the financial freedom to relocate across countries, buy multiple properties, and change plans whenever necessary. To those observers, the contrast between the serious political language and the flexibility of her lifestyle created a debate about how genuine or symbolic the move really was. Another theory that started gaining traction online had less to do with politics and more to do with real estate. Some critics believe the move to England may have been tied to a strategy Ellen has been known for over the years, buying properties, renovating them quickly, and selling them for a major profit. According to reports, the first home she purchased overseas was not something she lived in for very long. In fact, some accounts say she only stayed there for about a month while a large renovation project was already underway. That project reportedly involved a sizable team working on the property at high speed with the goal of upgrading the house and putting it back on the market for a much higher price than what she originally paid. The renovation timeline itself raised eyebrows.
Hello, sheep. You're not supposed to be in here.
Sheep will be fun. Good job, baby.
Reports suggested a large group of workers were brought in to complete the upgrades in roughly 10 weeks, after which the property was listed again with a price tag that was millions higher. Critics pointed out that this type of fast turnaround looks very similar to the house flipping strategy Ellen has used many times before. Over the past 2 decades, she and her wife have developed a reputation for buying luxury homes, redesigning them, and selling them at a profit. In fact, real estate watchers often note that the couple has handled dozens of properties over the years, including many in Southern California alone. There was also discussion around the financial advantages of living in a property briefly before selling it. In some situations, when a house is considered a primary residence, owners may qualify for tax rules that reduce the amount owed on profits from the sale. Critics speculated that even a short stay could help support that classification, which might significantly lower the capital gains tax on a multi-million-dollar deal. None of that is illegal by itself, but it added to the perception among skeptics that the move may have been just as much about business strategy as lifestyle. Ellen had publicly explained the change in homes differently. She suggested the first property simply did not offer enough space for her horses, which is why the couple decided to purchase another estate instead. Some observers accepted that explanation, while others questioned why such a major detail would not have been considered before buying a property reportedly worth tens of millions of dollars. Those doubts only grew when local news began reporting friction between the renovation project and nearby residents. Several villagers and local officials reportedly raised concerns about the construction work and whether the proper approvals had been secured before certain changes were made. One issue involved worries that the renovations might disturb historically significant ground in the area, including possible ancient remains. Another complaint centered on a large fence installed around the property, which some locals feared could affect water drainage and increase the risk of flooding in parts of the village. Whether those disputes were eventually resolved or not, they added yet another layer of controversy to an already dramatic chapter in Ellen's post-television life.
So, Montecito is under complete evacuation, the entire town. This is crazy. This street next to our house never flows, ever. Probably about 9 feet up, and it's going to go another 2 feet up. We have horses ready to evacuate. We need to be nicer to Mother Nature, because Mother Nature is not happy with us.
Oh, well, you know where that is too, right? It's a similar image to that, right?
No.
I know Jamie does.
What is it?
It's on the set of a famous talk show that's now not on anymore.
Oh, Ellen? Was that Ellen?
Yeah.
Really?
Just look at the temple and then look at the...
Let me see Ellen's background. What? Oh, similar. That looks like a building, though.
And the twist that really caught people's attention came a few months after the renovation drama. While that farmhouse was still sitting on the market, heavy flooding reportedly hit the surrounding area. Images circulating online showed water spreading across nearby land and pooling around parts of the property she had been trying to sell. For critics who had already been skeptical about the quick renovation and resale plan, the situation felt almost symbolic. After all the talk about turning the place into a luxury flip, the estate suddenly found itself surrounded by polluted floodwater. To some observers, it looked like the kind of irony you cannot script. Now stepping back for a second, there have also been a lot of rumors online tying Ellen to all kinds of larger conspiracy theories floating around the internet. But it is important to be clear about something here. Despite the speculation, her name has not been explicitly listed in the documents that have been publicly released in connection to those cases. Still, once a celebrity's reputation takes a serious hit, the internet tends to attach their name to almost every conversation happening in the background. That is just the reality of how public perception works once trust breaks down. Even public figures have weighed in on how quickly someone's image can shift once that damage is done. During an appearance on Joe Rogan's podcast, Aaron Rodgers mentioned Ellen while talking about the broader conversation around celebrity reputations. His comments reflected a common theme people bring up when discussing her downfall. When a public figure spends decades presenting a certain image and then that image cracks, people start revisiting everything connected to that person with a much more skeptical mindset. And that is really what happened here. However, the larger conversation about Ellen was never just about one moment or one controversy. It was about a reputation that had been carefully built over 3 decades, suddenly collapsing almost overnight. Once that happened, every old clip, every past relationship, and every new rumor started getting pulled back into the spotlight. If you look at the comment sections under many of her posts today, you can still see how intense the reaction has been. The public mood around her shifted dramatically, and it has not fully settled since. But now I want to hear what you think about this whole Ellen update. Do you believe the move overseas had anything to do with the controversies surrounding people in her circle? Or do you think it was simply a personal decision that got blown way out of proportion online? Drop your thoughts down in the comments because I want to see what you all think about it, and if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the Beyond Fame channel, share this with someone who follows celebrity news, and I will catch you in the next one.